but I've only known very well for about 2 weeks, and I don't know what I'm going to do without my texts and my calls and my emails to him. This has become like such a part of me, and I adore him. I love him. He's wonderful. I was asked to speak a little bit about myself. I was born in Cuba, and I came here when I was 3 months old. Lived here my whole life in Miami, so I'm like your typical Cuban-American exile. Born and raised here. Actually not born, but raised, practically born. When I was, my first 5 years of my life, I spent at home with my mother and my grandmother who sewed for the public. My mother did the designing and the sewing and the fittings, and my grandmother did all the finishing touches, the details, and that's where I started getting into this. Once I went to school, I luckily was enrolled in a very Cuban private school. You may know it, Conchita Espinosa Academy. This school, believe it or not, had sewing, knitting, band, ballet, and Spanish dance in its curriculum. We also did math and social studies and English and all that good stuff, but this was really what it was. It was way ahead of its time, really. It was, it places as much, and it's still, I direct the conservatory there right now, and we are still as focused on the arts as in the academics. And I think that's wonderful. It creates a very well-rounded person. I gravitated toward the dance my whole life. And that's what I liked. I took my music lessons, everything, but dance was what I liked. I liked Spanish dance more than anything. And not only did I like the performing on the stage, I also liked, I got very involved in the props and the accessories and the costumes more than anything. I went to all the fittings. I remember I loved the designers. We had this Spaniard called Rupert, which was awesome, excellent. And I would go to everyone's fittings. And I learned a lot there because I learned a lot about the materials, and I learned a lot about what looks better on a tall person, on a short torso, long legs, all that kind of good stuff. And I was like 12, 13, and I really, really got into that. When I went to high school, I continued dancing. I continued coming back to school in the afternoons to my alma mater, I guess. And when I enrolled at UM, I scheduled my classes in such a way that I could always continue to dance and teach ballet. As I went through college and all of that, I always kept in touch with that part of me. Not only with the dance, but with the designing. I was always making my friends necklaces and earrings and purses and accessories and telling them, oh, don't wear that. No, wear this of mine because it's going to be much better. And I take them, I went to Miami-Dade downtown for a year, which is New World now, but it was downtown back then. And I used to escape. I was telling Anthony, I would like cut class to go to the fabric stores. There were tons of beautiful fabric stores back then during those years. And you're going to say, well, okay, so how did you get to the Guayaberas? Well, the father of my children is an attorney. And he wore the suit and tie every day to work, regardless of how hot, how humid it was what he had to wear. So one day, trying to be helpful, I said, well, let me see if I can get Alfred, a couple of Guayaberas that he can wear to work, because it was very acceptable, very elegant, a beautiful piece. So I did. And what did I find? I found that other than the white, long sleeve, traditional linen Guayabera, there was really nothing that merited what he was doing, going to important luncheons, to functions, to things like that. So I just ventured into making one for him. I designed, I'll never forget, it was periwinkle, really pretty color, and he wore it to work one day, and it was a hit. His colleagues loved it, the secretaries loved it, our friends loved them. So that's where it all started. That's where I got involved into the designing of the Guayaberas. That was like quite a few years ago. Before I continue this, let me tell you something a little bit about the Guayabera and why the Guayabera seems to be so interesting. The Guayabera is claimed by everyone. Its origin is very controversial. Everyone claims the Guayabera. The Mexicans say, no, it started in Mexico, and then through the trade routes in the Caribbean, it got to Cuba. Then the Spaniards, of course, which are the mother country, said, well, Cuban took it over there, an aristocrat, and he commissioned a Spanish tailor. And so that's where it got to Cuba, because we made the first Guayabera, and the Cuban took it back to the island. The Filipinos have their own version of a Guayabera called a barong, which I was talking to someone that lived in the Philippines. Who was it that was telling me that he lived in the Philippines, if he knew? Oh, I don't know. You, Becca, yeah. So it's a the Philippine Guayabera is mostly for ceremonial events. So it's very fine, very beautiful. It does not have the 4 pockets. Okay, never has pockets, and it's used only for very high-end occasions. And then finally, we come to the story, or the place of origin, where I definitely think it's the real one, which is that it originated in Cuba. And it came from a campesino. Campesino's like a farm worker. And what happened was he and his wife designed this piece, and she put it together for him. She sewed it for him. Hence the 4 large pockets, so he could carry his tabacos, or cigars, his little papers and notes, his pencils, his snacks, and even his machete. This, I'm serious, I read this. This is where this comes from. And so it became popular because it was a daily kind of a thing that really came into use for these, for the campesinos. So that is why the Cubans claim it. And I have friends that are Puerto Rican and tell me, no, Marifelia, how about Puerto Rico? And I'm like, absolutely, and basically it's a Hispanic piece, or that's where it's really related to. But it has gotten such acceptance. See, it's become, and in many cultures, it's accepted to wear it in lieu of a coat and tie. You can wear wherever you can wear a coat and tie to, or you need to wear a coat and tie to. If you wear a fine Guayabera, you are correctly dressed. Okay? As a matter of fact, President Bush wore one to an official trip he had to Mexico. Shaquille O'Neal sported one when he signed up with Miami Heat. So the Guayabera is so versatile that it has become a part of everybody. You see them in Europe, you see them in Asia, even in some parts of Africa I was reading, especially in the United States. With them. When I started designing them, I became totally in love with them, and I said, but honestly, I really didn't like the idea of always the traditional Guayabera. The only thing I always keep in my Guayaberas is the pleats in the front. I always do that. I like that. I love pleats. So I always keep the pleats in the front, but everything else I play with. I play with the amount of pockets. I can go from no pockets, like the barong, to the 4 pockets, 1 pocket, 2 pocket, whatever the person wants. And I dubbed them, my Guayaberas are G's, because they're like G, the letter G, because they're really like a Cuban-American version of them. Sometimes I say, well, they're not really a Guayabera. Yes, they are. They really are Guayabera, and they're taken to another level. Okay, I pay a lot of attention to detail. Okay, let me tell you what I do first. Each of my Guayaberas, I don't have, you can come to, to my house, which is where I design and do my things. I don't have a store. Since I design one of a kind, I don't have like 5 larges and 5 mediums, because I design for the person. I take their measurements and I design for them. So each one is unique. It's made with that person in mind. I meet with my person. I see if my person is cool, if he's traditional, if he's a little daring, if he's tall, if he's shorter, all these kinds of things that come into play, where he's going to wear the piece to, what he wants to make out of it. And then, so I sit with them, I get a feel for who they are, and then I take it from there. I pay a lot of attention to detail. I use a lot of different materials, as you can see here, and you can probably see in the pictures. I use linen with piqués, always in the same line of colors. I don't like to, I like that when a person walks into a room and they're wearing something of mine, people will say, wow, that is so beautiful. I don't want people to say, oh, look at that, look, green, wow, or, like, look at that, black and white, no, that's not what I'm into. I like very, very fine pieces, very elegant pieces. I'm a little snobby maybe when it comes to that. I want my people to feel beautiful. And so I try to design as beautifully as I can for them. I mostly use, pay a lot of attention to the buttons. I think the buttons can make or break the piece. I do a lot of mother of pearl. I use a lot of metals, a lot of things that will bring out the color of the Guayabera, that will complement the trims I'm in love with. And this is, I'm going to say in Español, which is entre dos, because it's not the same. In English, it's an insert. Just doesn't sound the same. The entre dos is this thing here that I have on my dress. Like this dress, for example.
That's a Guayabera dress.
It's a Guayabera dress.
It's beautiful.
You know, I don't know, for those of you that live here in Miami, I remember the first Guayabera dress I bought, I was really excited. I was telling them I was really happy. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to wear my Guayabera dress, and da-da-da-da. And I looked at myself in the mirror, I'm like, oh my God, I look like a carreta employee. You know? And I had bought a short sleeve because it was the summer, and I was like, oh, no, I can't wear this, you know? The kids will like, we're working at school with the children, I'm like, they're used to seeing Marifelia come dressed really nicely, you know? And they're gonna say, what is she wearing today, you know? So from there, between my ex-husband's design and then getting into my own things for myself, which is, this is like, you know, you look at it and you say, oh, it's along the lines of a Guayabera. It's not the traditional Guayabera dress, but it's along the lines. Like this one that I have here has the whole back, and I can turn her around carefully because she seems to do her own thing, and her hand falls off and all that good stuff. But it's encaje torchón. So for example, I made this for a friend of mine. She's a young girl. She's very daring, so she was backless, whatnot. I liked it a lot, so I said, okay, I'm gonna make one along those lines for myself. So I put chiffon sleeves on mine, and then the cuff was this lace, and mine has the lace from here up, and the rest is linen. So it's a little more demure. I ended up making another version of that one. This one I made 3 versions of. I made for my ex-mother-in-law, which I'm going to call my mother-in-law because I still like her. It's not her fault that she has such an idiot for a son. Anyway, I made another one for her, same thing with the sleeves, and then hers in the back, she asked me, and it's all linen. And it's beautiful. You know, so there's 3 different versions along the same lines. I did a wedding once also, destination wedding, and they asked me that they wanted to complement each other's shirts. But one of the men was very, very cool and out there and this, that, and the other. And then the other one was very traditional. So what I did was I played with the materials. You know, I did one totally all linen, and then the collar I did with the same thing that I was doing his partners. So it worked out beautifully. It was along the lines, and then one of their sisters was the bridesmaid, and I did a dress for her along those same lines. It was in Mexico. The wedding was going to take place in Mexico. And that was wonderful, and it was like, they were all different things for different people, different personalities, and that's what I like about it. There's so much to be done. You know, I was telling Anthony a little while ago, I sit there on the floor, and I feel like I'm performing. You know? I put all my laces on the floor, all my piqués, all my linens, all my things. I'm like, okay, let's see what I come up with now. I'm like, no, I don't like this, and I scotch tape it to the thing, and no, I don't like this, and I staple it, and you know, just to get an idea of what it's going to be looking like. And once I know at what point it's perfect, you know, then when it's ready to be, you know, to be fitted, I come in with a purse, and the purse says, oh, I want it tighter here. The other, there's just so much to be done with it. There's so many places to take it to. And to me, it's become like a passion. I love it. I really, really love it.